What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks and GameTime Tickets. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. And as someone Bader already threw in the chat, we made it. We did make it. Week 1 officially here, and we got a preview versus the Las Vegas Raiders to get into and break down. Barth and I were down at Gillette today, first practice of or back after the day off yesterday for the Patriots. We'll get into who was out there, who wasn't out there. We're still waiting for their injury report to drop here first of the season. So that could be dropping any moment as we get onto this show. But Barth, we also heard from Stefon Diggs at Gillette Stadium today for the first time since the first day of training camp, which was July 23rd, I believe. So it's been a while. He talked about, how he's been maybe talked about in the media a little bit, but he also talked about his injury, which is the big thing, coming off that torn ACL, and about how certain maybe coaches in the building don't want him to talk about it and how he's feeling. So what'd you kind of think from really, again, it's been 5 or 6 weeks since we've heard from Stefon Diggs. What were kind of your takeaways there from hearing from him today?
I mean, first off, a ton of credit to him for going up there. And I don't know that he had that much to wear responsibility for, but wearing the responsibility for it, the accountability there. The part I found interesting was after the back and forth with Phil Perry and Tom Curran. If you haven't seen it, Mark Daniels is the whole video, I believe, on his Twitter. And this all goes back to that interview he did with Diana Rossini. I think, was it in Minnesota or just before Minnesota?
In Minnesota.
Where she asks him, are you going to be available week 1? He doesn't give her a straight answer. Vrabel gets asked about it the next day by Phil, kind of goes off on Phil. And that's when Phil had called him, suggested he might be a pain in the posterior, which, as Diggs pointed out, let's call it what it is, pain in the ass. And Diggs took exception to that. And so Greg asked, okay, so why was that? What were you trying to say? Right? You're up there. You're saying your comments were taken out of context. Would you like to add the context? Basically is what Greg said. And Diggs kind of replied that he didn't want to, it's the Patriots. He didn't want to give too much information away. And he mentioned that the coaches have been telling players not to talk about injuries. And I think it's not so much about Diggs. My big takeaway from it all, beyond, again, Diggs deserves credit for doing what he did, but we kind of talked about this last year with Gerard Mayo. We were so used to things being a certain way for 20-something years, and it's a new coach now, and we got to learn his tendencies and the way he talks and what he will and won't talk about. And I don't know, I don't know how much fans care about this. Maybe this is just a media observation, but it's an observation. Vrabel really, really hates talking about and being asked about injuries. It's clearly something that drives him up a wall. The Diggs question ultimately was about an injury in his health status from Phil that kind of set him off. He's been, Diggs said he's been told not to talk about injuries. Even today with Christian Gonzalez, he gets a few questions about it. And after the 4th or 5th question, he cuts the reporters off and says, and I have it right here. He says, I mean, please, guys, this is the first Wednesday of the season and he's not going to be at practice. Just please use your time as efficiently as we can to talk about our team, about the Raiders. I know Christian is a large part of our team, but he's not going to be out there today. So that's all I can update you with. Do you have anything else since I cut you off? And this is the same thing. He did an interview with EI earlier this week where they asked him about injuries and he just looked annoyed. I don't know if it's, and he kind of said something about it earlier in the year. He's not going to want to talk a lot about injuries. He believes that's a personal matter, which, yeah, to an extent it is. It's the National Football League. There's people betting on these games, and they release the injury reports for a reason. But I don't think he wants to give out much more than what he has to. And I think some of that is the respect for the players, being a former player himself. I just don't think we're going to hear a lot about injuries this year. Even the initial Christian Gonzalez report from Jordan Schultz that he'd be ready for week 1 was wrong. Which was that from the team or was that from an agent? And if it's from an agent, it's because the team doesn't want it getting out. And you can kind of see where Vrabel's coming from, because that Schultz reports that we all expect it to be a month. And now it's more than a month. And now it creates all the more questions and all the more tense environments. So again, I don't know how much fans ultimately care about this, but just from my view, and Brian, feel free to disagree, I just think Vrabel really, really, really hates talking about injuries. And I think as long as he's here, this is what it's going to be. beyond what's on the injury report. And he'll probably, he did it with Gonzalez. He'll give us a daily update an hour before practice. He'll be out there. He won't be out there. That might be all we're getting when it comes to injuries from Vrabel.
Yeah. And he's been good about that. Like even in camp saying, Kendrick Bourne won't be out here this week. Gonzalez won't be out here this week, which is
he gives us the availability, and that's, you could argue that's ultimately what matters. Will he be out there? Will he not be out there? We're not getting into the medical details of it. We're not getting into the physiology of it. It's just, hey, this guy's available. This guy's not. And I think that's more or less what it's going to be.
Yeah. And I definitely think that ties back to being a player and just how kind of random like these injuries can be. Like you're some guys suffer setbacks, some guys can come back sooner. Like you don't want to put timelines on it. And then like the Jalen Polk reports where he threw out the rat comments because it gets reported that he could be out for the year, and now it looks like it's still going to be that, but he's on IR and he's landed on the IR that's out, knocked him out for the year. But there was some questions about that. Like he doesn't want that stuff getting leaked out from the team, it sounds like. So I'm definitely with you with that. And you saw how he handled the Gonzo stuff today, and that kind of backed that up. So, but speaking of Gonzo, as we kind of transition to the Raiders here, he was not on the practice fields today on Wednesday, so not a good sign for his availability. And we're still waiting for the injury report here, so we'll see what his status is when that is get posted. That should be any minute by now, but we'll update you there. But Barth, when you look at this Raiders offense with Geno Smith, the pass catchers, the big one's Brock Bowers right now. He's a tight end, but Mike Vrabel said multiple times this week, you look at him and you kind of treat him as a wide receiver. So when you are attacking the Raiders offense, are you pulling one of these old Bill Belichick game plans that, you put a corner on Travis Kelce, you take him out of the game with your best cover guy? Is that how you were attacking Brock Bowers? Or are you saying, okay, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker is a burner. Dante Thornton's had a really good camp. Amari Cooper just got there. Like he's 31. I don't know how worried we are about Amari Cooper, but how are you just kind of going about this in the secondary with or without Christian Gonzalez and covering Brock Bowers this week?
Well, I think part of it is whether or not Gonzalez is out there, right? I think that's ultimately, well, I guess my plan would be kind of the same whether or not Gonzalez is out there. It's just how good do you feel about it? If Gonzalez is out there, it's Gonzalez on Jacoby Myers, it's Carlton Davis on Brock Bowers with help, and then Marcus Jones on Trey Tucker if he's the third wide receiver on the field, Alex Austin on Dante Thornton if he's the third wide receiver on the field. And I think that's pretty cut and dry. If you don't have Gonzalez, okay, do you put Carlton Davis on Brock Bowers? Do you put, because Jacoby Myers can still get you. Not as much as Brock Bowers can get you, but he can still get you. All right, so now it's who on Jacoby Myers with help? Well, if it's Alex Austin, how do you feel about Marcus Jones on, I think it's 6'5" Dante Thornton, right? If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, 6'5", 205-pound Dante Thornton. That's a size mismatch.
Runs a 4.3 too, which, I mean, the size, the speed Marcus Jones has, but the size definitely.
Right. So then it's, or, do you put Marcus Jones on him, but then they might go with Trey Tucker. And I don't know that you have anybody else that's keeping up speed-wise with Trey Tucker. Maybe this is where DJ James gets involved. Not quite as fast as Marcus Jones, but has some speed and is a little bit bigger at 6 feet. It just gets a little more complex. I still ultimately, though, Brock Bowers is the number one threat. I would put Carlton Davis on Brock Bowers, but now maybe also, you put Christian Gonzalez on Jacoby Myers. No offense to Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is not a part of the game plan. He's done. And you can help Davis on Bowers with safeties or linebackers or another corner or whoever you can bracket them. I think if you're putting Carlton Davis on Bowers without Gonzalez on Myers, you're maybe not sending that health as much.
Yeah, it gets a little riskier that way, but I like the idea of putting a corner on Brock Bowers because that is the main source of passing attack. Like if they want to beat you, throw into those other guys, like just kind of tip your cap and let that happen. But I like putting Carlton Davis, who's like big physical guy. Like he should be able to take Brock Bowers. And Taylor said someone pointed it out to him too, talking to him today. Like late in the year last year for the Raiders, the Broncos in their second matchup against the Raiders put Pat Surtain on Bowers and held him to like 4 catches for 38 yards in that one after they got beat pretty badly by him earlier in the year. So they adjusted. And I know Pat Surtain, like defensive player of the year, but you saw the effect putting a cover corner on him. So I like your plan going with Carlton Davis on him. If they don't have Gonzo, do you think they might opt more for, okay, we'll leave Carlton Davis on the outside, and then maybe we're getting Craig Woodson and Robert Spillane and some bracket coverages in call? Like, do you think they could just opt that way? Like, put more attention on him with safeties and linebackers instead of a corner.
Yeah, but you just got to send more because he's going to be a mismatch for anybody. Any safety, any linebacker they have, he's a mismatch. And that's just a dangerous game you're playing with. To me, if they beat you throwing a Dante Thornton and Trey Tucker, you tip your cap to Geno Smith. Even if they beat you throwing Jacoby Myers, Myers 1,000-yard receiver last year. If they beat you throwing a Brock Bowers, how'd you not see that one coming? How are you not prepared for that? That's the guy you can't let beat you.
Yeah. So it'll be a good test because they had their issues covering tight ends this summer for sure. In the joint practices and in the preseason games, some tight ends, and it was like Zach Ertz and T.J. Hawkinson, like good players, but certainly not all pro Brock Bowers. So good test right out of the gate for this Patriots defense. But speaking of these kind of tests for the defense, Barth, one thing you've been on a lot, even in the offseason and then through camp, their ability to stop the run, and now. What Ashton Jeanty go 5th overall pick. Ashton
Jeanty 5 or
6,
yeah, something like
5
that.
or 6 coming in here. Heisman runner up. Do you think they're going to be able to stop him, or what's this run defense going to look like against Jeanty?
Just real quick, we do have the Patriots injury report here.
Oh, here we go.
So, and I lost it. I had it and I lost it. Where'd it go? Great radio. There it is. Only 3 players listed for the New England Patriots. Christian Gonzalez, a non-participant with the hamstring, which we've known. Charles Woods apparently dealing with a concussion as well as a groin injury. He was limited, and Efton Chisholm was a full participant with a knee injury. So maybe that's what kept him out there at the end of practice. That would be that close loop on that. The Raiders have just 2 players listed. Kai Blue Kelly and Kenny Pickett were both full participants with a hamstring.
Kenny Pickett. Charles Woods, he was out there. So maybe that was a in practice concussion or something. So,
or that could be, we did this last year with Drake Mash. Remember the phases. There's one phase where you can return, but you're limited. Yeah. Where is he in the phases?
Interesting. As we all tweet out this injury report right now, again, great radio. But yeah, Gonzo.
So hard to do the screenshot because the Toyota ad shows up right in the middle of the Vegas one. I miss when we used to get the spreadsheets.
I know.
So there you go.
All right, Gonzo.
Great radio.
Doesn't look good for Sunday, I would say. But that run defense, I know it's been a concern of yours. Again, kind of really throughout the whole offseason and spilling into the training camp in preseason here. How do you think they're just going to match up and overall perform against Ashton Jeanty in the opener here?
Well, look, if I'm the Raiders, I'm running the ball until the Patriots give me a reason to stop. Pete, we know Pete Carroll wants to run the ball. They've invested in their run game beyond Jeanty this offseason. It's a team that has struggled to stop the run in the Patriots in the past. I'm ground and pound until they give me a reason to stop. So I think the Patriots are going to get tested heavily in that regard right away. I don't know what I'm expecting. Like, this is still an unknown. We just don't see a ton of it during camp, the way these camps are run. We'll see what they get out of Milton Williams. We'll see what they get out of Khyiris Tonga. I doubt Eric Gregory dresses this week. That's just kind of rare for a waiver claim. He's somebody that maybe factors in there more down the road. But do we see some of Joshua Farmer, for instance? It's tough to say. Like, I know we're supposed to kind of project. This one could go any way, and I don't know that I'd be surprised. The Patriots' run defense is a complete and total unknown to me. Shout out Diego. Pete Carroll wants to run the ball unless it's on the 1. Good comment.
Good callback. But that defensive line rotation on the interior, I think, will be interesting just to watch, right? Like, what are their plans? And I know week 1 of the regular season, Mike Vrabel said today, like, everyone's going to play because not everyone is in tip-top game shape yet. No one's played a full game in months. So, like, especially in the trenches on that defensive line. Like bodies are going to be coming in and out, rotating a lot. But, Milton Williams, that role is going to be more than it was in Philly. Like, where's Christian Barmore kind of at? He was on and off the practice fields during the summer. It sounds like he's good to go, no setbacks or anything. But are they going to ease him kind of into this when the regular season starts, or is it going to be right back? I think he was at like 65% in 2023 during his year. Like, is he his big year? Is he going to be right back to there? Then Tonga, then even some of those rotational guys, Farmer. Again, I don't think Eric Gregory is going to be in there, but just that rotation on the interior will be interesting. Do you have maybe a ideal kind of way that plays itself out, and maybe just beyond week one, like as we go into the season, how that kind of plays out with the percentages and how much those guys play?
You're gonna have to say that again. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to tweet out this ridiculous
report. Like, how do you want to see that defensive line, like, kind of rotation earlier in the year as we get into the year? Like, Milton Williams, you hope he can play 3 downs and play a high percent, and then you hope Barmore gets back to kind of that 2023 level, but he was on and off the practice fields this summer.
Yeah, look, I think just seeing where Barmore's at and how much he plays after, he was limited at times this summer. How much do they get out of him? I expect him to play at a high level. Again, the one to me is Williams. I think you have 2 high-paid, high-level defensive tackles in Barmore and Milton Williams. Like, it's very rare linemen play into the 80s and 90%, right? But if both those guys are giving you over 60 and you're rotating them with Tonga a little bit, maybe Joshua Farmer starts to work his way in a little later in the season, like, that's an ideal setup. But if Milton Williams can't stop the run, if teams are attacking him against the run, if he's a liability against the run, then that further complicates things. One, now you need Barmore on the field more because you need that playmaker. And then who steps up as that run player? And whoever it is, whether it's Tonga, whether it's Farmer, whether it's Gregory, well, that guy's also going to need to give you some sort of push in the pass rush, because you can't have a liability there either. That's why Khyiris Tonga's, the small flashes we got of pass rush for him this summer were so important. So to me, Milton Williams is the ultimate domino in that spot.
Yeah, I agree. But I think those are kind of the 2 big points against the Raiders, is stopping Genty in that run game. They're going to want to run the football. Then when they do pass, and we were talking at Gillette today, like, I'm a Geno Smith guy. I think we had him in like that 10 to 12 range we kind of settled on and for quarterbacks in the game. But if you take Brock Bowers out, like, you're not that scared of the other Raiders receivers. So stopping Brock Bowers in limiting that run game in Ashton Genty there. So let's jump over to the offense. I want to do that, this Patriots offense. But before we do that, I want to hear from our friends over at PrizePicks. And Barth, you and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. It's simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Thursday night football kicks off. Eagles, Dallas, Saquon, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott back, CeeDee Lamb, or you can go Joe Burrow later in the weekend, more or less than 2.5 passing touchdowns. Josh Allen, more or less than 270 pass yards. Everyone's available, or head over even to the Patriots. We'll do it after the show. Tons of players available: Drake May, Travion Henderson, Stefon Diggs, and plenty more for your lineups there. And PrizePicks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly. After you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to, again, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. And again, we'll put our lineup together later in the show. Barth, there are tons, I was looking at it earlier, tons of guys available to open the season there. Like Robert Spillane was on there, Milton Williams, tons of good stuff that we can dive into. But I want to talk about the offense. And this could be kind of a big picture take, talking about Drake May here, but just going into the year and going into week one, like, what do you want to see with Drake May to make yourself kind of feel good coming out of this one?
So a couple things, and I've said this a million times: turnovers have to come down. Turnovers 100%. Have to come down, and the number I've given is under a turnover a game. However many games he starts, hopefully it's 17, right? If he starts 17 games, 16 or fewer turnovers, interceptions and fumbles combined. But that can't come at a lack of production. You need to see the scoring go up as well. I had this conversation on the Sports Hub the other day with Mark Dendero, who pointed out, so many of most of the good quarterbacks in the league, if they didn't immediately take off as rookies, they led a team that was over 500, most of them a playoff team their second year. But even when you go through a lot of those guys, and some of the guys we looked at, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, I don't remember. There were a few others that we pulled from. Their second year, there is a jump in the second year, some bigger than others, but most of them struggled, relatively speaking, early in the second year. Some of them were just fine. Some of them were actively bad. And by the time you got to the end of October, though, that's when kind of the ascension started. So the growth is not going to be linear. He's not going to be better, one game after the next every single week. But also, I don't want Drake May to play his best game of the season this Sunday. I don't. I don't think that would be a good thing if we ultimately, and that's not saying I want him to be bad, but if we get to the end of the season, we go back and look at it and say, oh yeah, his best game was against the Raiders. You remember who peaked, and I mean really peaked, in the season opener of their second year? Threw for like 300 yards against the playoff team.
Oh, the Mac game versus
Mac
the Eagles?
Jones lighting up the Eagles. Like
I don't know if that was he threw a pick six in that game. It was
like 300 yards, Brian.
I know it was a good stats game, but I didn't think that.
The point being, like, I want to see Drake May get better as the year goes on. I don't want him to suck out of the gate. But when you look at the way this generally goes, and this is for the majority of the good quarterbacks in the league, if you're going to take that jump and be a top 10 player, fair enough, Des, that was Mac's third year, actually. That's right. My apologies. But same idea. If you're going to take a jump and be a top 10 player at that position, usually by Halloween, your second year starting. So some of those guys, too, that I referenced, like, Jalen Hurts didn't really play his first year. We didn't count that, right? It's starting. By your by Halloween, your second full year starting, that's when you're starting to ascend. That's when you're really starting to show you can be that guy and showing it consistently. So that's what I want to see from Drake May. If he's not making progress and is significantly better in the second half than the first half, I'm going to be worried. Turnovers have to come down. That's a part of it. But he can't be stagnant. Even if he's fine, even if he's playing like representative quarterback play, and that's kind of the baseline, if he's representative for 17 games, that probably tells us that's just who he is. And as the third overall pick, you got to be better than representative. You got to be adding something. You got to be elevating. I want to see him do that, but the real time for that to emerge is the second half of the season. It'd be great if he does it from week one. That would be awesome. But realistically, it's kind of come midway into the second year.
Yeah. I just pulled up Josh Allen just to look his second year. Over the first 5 games, he threw 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And then from November 20th on, so right kind of before Halloween, he threw 15
October
touchdowns.
20th on.
October 20th on, 15 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, right? So the turnover number dropped. I don't know, he probably had a lot of good rushing touchdowns in there. Yeah, he had 6 rushing touchdowns on top of that. So, 21 touchdowns total to 2 interceptions. So playing a lot cleaner football. I don't know the Bills' record in those games, but they went 10-6 that year. So leading them to a winning record. I think they made the playoffs that year. Was that the year they played Houston?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe in the playoffs. So, yeah, they lost to Houston. It was right there. So
I'll just say this, because you mentioned the running thing. Excuse me. Usually when these guys can run, they can run. That's just kind of a skill you have from the jump. It's pairing the passing game with it.
Yeah.
When I did this exercise, I looked just at the passing numbers. So a few more for you here, just for the example. Jalen Hurts in his first 5 games as a starter, his second year. Do I have the right season? I want to make sure I have the right season here. I do. Because this is his technically third season. 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, averaged a little over 250 yards a game, and then just went on a tear for the second half of the season. Justin Herbert, over his first 7 games, his second year, 16 touchdowns, 6 picks, 284 yards a game. Like, that's not bad. He goes on to finish the season with 38 touchdowns, 15 picks, over 5,000 yards. So got much more productive down the stretch there. Lamar Jackson's another one through his first 5 games. 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's fine. He only threw 1 more interception after week 5, as opposed to 25 more touchdowns. So really kind of started clicking there late. Joe Burrow, I know he was coming back from an injury. Over his first 5 weeks, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Over his first 9 weeks, 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Finishes with 34-14. They were 5-4 after the first 9 games. End up finishing 10-5 with him. He didn't play the last week of that season. This is just the way it goes for a lot of these quarterbacks. Whatever it is about October, that pumpkin spice comes out, the Halloween decorations go up, and it just makes them figure it out in year 2. So that's not to excuse bad play from Drake May. And some of those guys were still solid over the first, 5 to 8 games. They definitely weren't disastrous. They were just kind of pedestrian until they turned it on. So that's just what I'm looking at with Drake May. When we get to mid to late October, and the schedule kind of lines up with it as well, not to take up this whole game preview show with a big picture take, but all right, they've got the Bills in Buffalo primetime week 5. That's a tough game. After that, you got Saints, Titans, Browns. And 2 of those games are on the road, but Saints, Titans, Browns. He should light those games up one way or the other. Those teams are terrible. But the idea is, Felger's going to be saying, it's the Saints, Titans, and Browns. It doesn't really matter. These are tomato cans. He's going to show it against a real opponent. Well, then you get the Falcons, who have a legit defense. You get the Buccaneers, who have a legit defense. You get the Bills and Ravens again later in the year. Can he look against those teams? Like the Saints, Titans, Browns should give him an opportunity to start to get into that. And then once he kind of hits that level against lesser opponents, can he continue to maintain that against greater opponents?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I know we were throwing all those like touchdown numbers. I don't think there needs to be like, oh, he's got to throw 25 touchdowns in this amount of games to make it a success. Now, turnovers and interceptions, definitely. I think there's a number there that you would like, but you just want to see that progress through the second half of the season from October on, specifically. And the schedule, as you said, it does line up very nicely for Drake to do that. So that was kind of big picture. Hopefully, it just gets off on the right foot here in Vegas or against Vegas. No turnovers would be a great place to kind of start with that, but. Elsewhere, just kind of on this offense, we were talking about Steph Diggs. He said he's healthy. He said he's ready to go. He was asked if he's going to be on a pitch count. He said, hell no, before saying, I don't know. We'll see, but I hope not. So he seems good, ready to go. Just how do you think this wide receiver rotation is going to work coming right out of the gate? Like, will we see any of Kyle Williams, or is it going to be those kind of 4 veterans at the top of this thing that we've seen kind of throughout summer and the preseason?
I mean, I think we'll see Kyle Williams eventually. Look, they're going to need his speed, and they're going to need his ability after the catch. I wrote something about this on 98.5thesportsub.com this morning. I think I gave the take on the last show about how front and center this rookie class is going to be. Kyle Williams probably isn't there just yet, but they're going to need his speed. They're going to need his ability to create with the ball in his hands. It maybe doesn't come week 1. He had that injury. They have a little more depth there than at some other positions, but I think at some point they are going to, and that doesn't mean he won't play. Like, I think we'll see him against the Raiders. I think there'll be a couple formations that he's involved in, but I think he probably more takes off in October, November, when they get a better idea what they have with these veterans, right? Can Kayshon Boutte keep up what he did in camp? Can Mac Hollins keep up what he did in camp? How does Diggs look off the knee after a couple games? He really hasn't gotten hit a ton. He's looked good coming back from the injury, but he hasn't dealt with that kind of contact. When he starts dealing with that, what's it going to look like? So I do think we'll see Kyle Williams. I just don't think it's an immediate. He'll be as immediate as some of the other rookies.
I'm with you. And maybe that coincides with that Drake May takeoff, right? You get Kyle Williams in there in October, November, and that helps with it. But I do think they're going to lean on the veterans. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. And I know we've talked so highly of Efton Chisholm this summer, and he's deserved it. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe one of their inactives on Sunday, just because they have all those veterans at the top of the depth chart. He's not going to be returning punts with Marcus Jones and Demario Douglas in there. So maybe we don't see Efton Chisholm right out of the gate, but I think they're going to kind of lean on those veterans. And I'm with you, like, so excited to see Stefon Diggs. And I know he's been hot topic of conversation over the summer, but I think overall he's had a pretty good summer for the kind of player he is now. And we've talked so much about that. He's not this explosive down the field threat, but he can move the chains. He can still be a high volume target, but see him with the ball in his hands, that will be a big thing because we haven't seen that in game action and that ability that he still has coming back from this knee injury now that we're actually moving into the regular season. So we'll see with those wide receivers. I want to talk backs and O-line very quickly, but I also want to get a quick word in from our friends over at GameTime because football season is here and you can go to games with the GameTime app, and it gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few trips. It's incredibly easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means that you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. Right now, Raiders at Patriots, 1 p.m. on Sunday at Gillette Stadium. It's going to be a beautiful day, I believe. Last time I checked, no rain or anything on the forecast, so you can come tailgate. Oh, there's a little rain on the forecast now. Never mind, as I just pulled that up. Hopefully that stays away, but $179, cheapest get it on the Game Time app to get into Gillette, or you can move down lower level, kind of right in the corner where the press box is, $354 if you want to fire up a super deal, just 6 or 7 rows up in that corner of the end zone. Great spot to watch a game there. So make sure you guys take the guesswork out of buying all your football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download the Game Time app today. All right. We'll wrap up the offense here. Barth, kind of the same question with that receiver room, the rotation, but how do you think that looks in the running back room with Travion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson, and Antonio Gibson right out of the gate here in week 1?
I think you probably look at, Ramondre, I think is going to get the most of the snaps. He's still going to be your early down bowling ball as long as he's not fumbling. He's going to get most of that work. Travion Henderson is going to be in the big spots, 3rd down, 2-minute high red zone, and they'll mix Antonio Gibson in when people need a spell. So the numbers I've kind of used roughly: Stevenson in the low to mid 40% range for usage, Henderson high 30s, low 40s, and then Antonio Gibson rounding out the rest of it. I still think you want to be careful about over-repping Travion Henderson. We saw what happened at Ohio State when they try to make him a bell cow back. More is less with it, or less is more with him. And Stevenson is a good, body blow back, and he's kind of the perfect complement to Henderson as long as he can hold on to the football. That is the big thing for him, obviously.
Yeah, I still think he's probably their best early down back, and you'll still see Antonio Gibson used in those situations, I bet, but they need to get Travion Henderson on the field at times and get the football in his hand because he is their most explosive threat on offense. Now, good point. Like, you don't want to overwork him. You're probably looking, would you say like 12, 15 touches, like total touches?
Yeah, 15, 15. Maybe if you want to go a little above that, you can. But
yeah, I think
he should not be. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, you're not giving him 20, 25 touches right out of the gate here. That's just probably not smart, especially when you have those other backs in the roster. But again, you do need that speed, that ability on the field. So I like that split. But offensive line, kind of wrap it up here on offense. We'll hit special teams and then do our PrizePicks lineup, of course. But big test for the offensive line right out of the gate with Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz on the other side, who is, no one to shrug your shoulders at either. He is coming off a torn ACL, so we'll see where he's at. But good first test for Will Campbell, Morgan Moses. It does seem like it's going to be Jared Wilson at left guard and Garrett Bradbury at center right out of the gate. So just how are you feeling kind of about this starting 5? We've seen the last few weeks. Just how are you feeling about that in that matchup against Vegas here?
I feel good about some of it. I still worry about where Garrett Bradbury's at. I think you're going to have to give Morgan Moses help with Max Crosby. Remember, Max Crosby rushes off the right side. So unless the Raiders blow up what they do to attack Will Campbell, which you could argue maybe they should, but just I think TJ Watt does the same thing, right? A lot of these star rushers like rushing off the right tackle. I don't know if they want, what's perceived as a lesser tackle or whatever, but you're going to need to give Morgan Moses help over there. Mike Onwenu should be fine. the lefties the rookies on the left side, there's the inherent worry there, but I'm not as worried about Malcolm Kuntz. And then where's Garrett Bradbury at after a rough camp? Like, can he hold up? If he doesn't hold up and we have to see Ben Brown, now you get nervous because there goes your interior depth. And there goes a lot of your flexibility up front. So I feel better about some spots than others, but I still think there's questions.
Yeah. The center is still my biggest concern, just with Garrett Bradbury, just because again wasn't good last year, and he didn't do anything really this summer to make me feel any more confident in him as a pass blocker. There were some glimpses of him in the run game, even though it wasn't even perfect there, but just the pass protection there worries me. Someone said, I bet Max Crosby goes right up the middle. Does he do any of that like basketball stuff Michael Parson does, where he just singles him up on the center and just let him go?
I think he does a little bit of that.
Maybe they pull that one out, but it is, and also just the Raiders defense as a whole. Like it's Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham, who was in New England for a while, like kind of a weird mix up. So I don't know. Patrick Graham might have some old of those like Brian Flores pressure packages and stuff that he can kind of rip out to challenge that Patriots offensive line. But it'll be a good test right out of the gate there for that unit. But anything special teams wise, just to wrap up this preview before we hit our PrizePicks lineup, just first test for Borgalis and Ashby. Just hope that goes cleanly. This new kickoff, anything there you're specifically looking at?
I'm fascinated by the kickoff. How much, and we saw some explosive plays around the league in the preseason, but how much of the preseason was teams testing what, and I'm looking forward to asking Jeremy Springer this tomorrow, how much of the preseason was teams kind of testing the new rules and testing out what they want to try versus maybe not wanting to expose their whole hand and not wanting to give away what they're ultimately going to do. This is going to be an important play this year. So I'm fascinated to see how it turns out.
Yep. And you have two, as we saw in the preseason, like Gibson and Henderson, like two pretty explosive players to kind of fill that role. So they were really successful in the preseason. So hopefully they can kind of carry that momentum over in the kickoff game. But that will wrap up kind of positions, offense, defense, special teams there. Should we throw together a PrizePicks lineup for week one here?
Sorry, say that again.
Should we throw together a PrizePicks lineup
Let's
here?
do it.
I think we should do it. So again, a lot of options, a lot of available players. They even got like Christian Barmore, sacks, Caleb Chason, sacks on here.
You know what? Caleb Chason, game day captain. What are his sacks?
More than a half.
Start right there. Yep. Add that.
Okay. And it's a demon. So
it's
right
a demon.
off
All right.
Demon. So get that payout up. I'll share you some Drake May. Well, if you think the offensive line is going to go bad, you can go more or less than 2.5 sacks taken for Drake May. So if you think the Raiders are really going to get after him, he's got 28.5 rush yards, more or less than half an interception. Do you think he's going to be clean in the turnover department? What else? 5.
I'm more worried about the fumbles and the interceptions in this game.
5 rush attempts, 28.5.
Oh, I think that's more.
More than 5 rush attempts?
Yeah.
All right, we'll throw that one in there. Let's see what else we got here. Jack Westover, touchdown. Kyle Williams. Milton Williams, more than half a sack.
I mean, no offense to Jack Westover. I don't know if the fullback is scoring. Do we want to go less there?
Steph Diggs, it's
only more? Okay.
Yeah, they only let you go more. Steph Diggs, 4.5 receptions or 48.5 receiving yards, more or less.
I like them. I mean, I think they're going to volume feed him the ball. I might go more on receptions.
All right, more than 4.5 receptions. We get Travion Henderson involved here. 68.5 total yards, rush plus receiving, 40.5 rush yards, 13.5 longest rush. Travion Henderson, if he breaks one, 21.5 receiving yards or a touchdown.
I feel like we always do more and we never do less, so I'm being cautious, but
we do always do a ton.
Does the total yards, does that include, that doesn't include kick returns, does it?
No, it's just rush plus receiving yards.
I don't know about that one then.
68.5.
What do we got for the Raiders?
Let's go to the Raiders. Yeah, we can do the less on the Raiders.
Oh, and then we got to do one from the Sickos game, right?
Yeah. Raiders, we got Oh, the first guy that pops up, if you just search Raiders, Adam Butler, more than half a sack. Good friend.
Adam Butler revenge game. How do we
Adam
feel
Butler.
about that?
Going against Garrett Bradbury, maybe, right?
Do we want to put more on that?
Sure, we can do that.
All right.
Throw an old Patriot in there. Ashton Genty is 68.5 rush yards. Brock Bowers is 64.5 receiving yards, 6 receptions.
I feel like we need one less. And no, it's all about hitting mores.
We could do one of their
to take less.
Jacoby Myers, longest reception, 20.5 yards. Less.
I'm actually okay taking all more. The other thing, we just didn't want to take all positive Patriots ones. We want to be objective here.
Max Crosby, more or less than half a sack.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get a sack. Let's be honest.
We'll throw more there. And then what's our sicko?
I mean, I think we have to go Aaron Rodgers return to MetLife Stadium.
Okay.
The question is, do we think it will go well or not?
Aaron Rodgers, he's got half a rush attempt, 202.5 pass yards, 204.5 total yards, 2.5 sacks taken, more or less than that one.
I mean, he's probably going to throw for more than 200 yards, right?
I would say so. I mean, the Jets have a pretty good
that washed.
I couldn't even tell you. 31.5 pass attempts. We could go. We want to go more than 200?
No, they're going to run the ball.
Less than 31 pass attempts?
Maybe, yeah. That might be the play.
All right. We could do that.
What do you think?
I don't see the Steelers throwing the ball 31 times, right?
And then again, their high draft pick running back. Hasn't Caleb Johnson been horrible?
Yeah, I think like Jalen Warren has been a lot better, and they have another back in that backfield, I think. But
it's not Najee anymore.
Less than 31? We locking that in?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. So we got a big.
I mean, last year it was like bigger every week.
Yeah, this one is very big. We got Adam Butler, more than half a sack, revenge game. Drake May, more 5 rush attempts. Kayvon Chason, more than half a sack. Max Crosby, more than half a sack. A lot of sacks going around in this one. Stefon Diggs, more than 4.5 receptions. And then our sicko game, Jets versus Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, less than 31 pass attempts. If we got 6 out of 6 right, it pays. It's a 37.5.
Oh yeah, we're back.
Time multiplier. 6 correct picks says 102 times multiplier. So just the $5 fee, right? You pay, use code CLNS, new users, play $5, get $50 instantly. The $5 fee, 510 winning. If you want to put the 50 on it and get really crazy, $5,100 in winning if we absolutely nail that lineup. So we could bank out right here over on PrizePicks there. So we'll screenshot that. We'll tweet out this lineup before the games if you guys want to play along with us. Big multiplier right out of the gate. That's how you know football season is back there, when you have that multiplier shining over on PrizePicks. So again, promo code CLNS. New users play $5 in lineups, get $50 instantly. Promo code CLNS. All right. We'll tweet that out again. Barth, any last thoughts here to wrap this up, or we can call it here?
I just checked the Red Sox score. Yikes. I guess I wanted to rush off to watch the game, but I guess I don't have to do that.
Not good without Roman Anthony?
It looks like Jordan Hicks went full Jordan Hicks.
Oh, good. Well, they had to bring him in oh my gosh. Yeah, he did go full Jordan Hicks. They had to bring him in the first inning because Bernardino couldn't get out. Yeah, they went, wow. 1/3.
And they had to do this because Kyle Harrison's not healthy. That Rafael Devers trade's looking great.
Why did they
say the return for Rafael Devers is looking great?
Why didn't Dustin May just start? What was wrong with that?
I think they moved him to the bullpen because they don't have enough righties in the bullpen.
But wouldn't you rather him just start?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's fun. So no Roman Anthony, and now this. Hopefully they can survive without that. But we'll wrap it up here. Make sure you guys are locked on Patriots Press Pass, like, subscribe, so you know when we go live. We'll be back after week 1 to break down an actual football game. Can't wait to do that. Also, if you're just on audio only, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you guys subscribe there. Also, make sure you're following Barth on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985 thesportshub.com for his week 1 coverage there. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for all your Patriots week 1 coverage online there as well. So thanks again, everyone, for jumping on with us tonight. Enjoy week 1 of the football season, even though Red Zone has commercials now. Yuck. Thanks, ESPN, but enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week.